So the question is, what do we do about B12? Obviously, as vegans, we're going to have a problem, right? It's not so obvious. Okay, sometimes things aren't how they appear to be. Why do people who eat animal products consume lots of B12? Why is that the case?
It's injected into the meat.
Because
It's injected into the meat.
it's injected into the meat. It doesn't have to be injected into the meat.
Because they don't have a good microbiome?
No, but why is someone eating animal products is automatically, even if they're eating wild animals, they're going to get tons of B12. Why is that?
It's produced from the bacteria that the animal eats.
It's because it's produced by bacteria in the animal's body, not just that the animal eats. Okay, remember, now not all bacteria produce B12, I'm not saying that. But our bodies contain roughly 70 trillion cells and approximately 700 trillion bacteria, 10 times more bacteria than our own cells. Okay? There's ample B12 being manufactured in your body every single day, just as there is inside the body of every animal. The reason animal products are loaded with B12 is because animals have tons of bacteria in their body making B12. So do we. Okay? Here's an interesting fact. If you look at serum B12 results, vegans and vegetarians, serum B12 means what? B12 in the bloodstream. Vegans and vegetarians have far lower serum B12 than people who eat animal products. Well, that shouldn't be a surprise, because if you're eating animal products, you're consuming tons of B12, and if you're eating fruits and vegetables, you're consuming very little, if any. There may be some, incidentally, on some of your produce, because it's made by bacteria that can live on the surface of the food, but there's not going to be any significant amount of it, okay? So of course, right, whatever we eat goes into the bloodstream and is then either directed to the cells, the bloodstream is the transportation network, or is filtered out through the kidneys if the body doesn't want it. So if you're eating, let's say, 1,000 times more B12, maybe 100,000 times more B12, it makes perfect sense there would be more B12 in the bloodstream, right? That's not surprising to anyone, okay? But do we need B12 in the bloodstream?
No.
No, we need it in the cells. Let's assume for just a second that you like schools. I happen to think most schools are crap, right? The school system is pretty much broken, right? But let's say you think children should be in schools. So in order to ensure that there's enough children in schools, what are you going to do? You're going to count children on school buses. Okay, is that a good strategy? What do you think? Well, it may not be. I mean, some of those buses may never get to the school. Okay, some of those buses get to the school and some of the kids don't go inside. I did that in high school. Okay, I'd go to school every day, but I wouldn't necessarily go in. Okay, so having children on buses doesn't mean that you've got butts in seats. Even if you've got butts in seats, they might not be, that's a different story. Okay, we don't need B12 in the transportation network. We need it actually arriving and being used properly. So here's the interesting thing. People who eat animal products have much higher serum B12, but actual incidences of B12 deficiency problems, clinical B12 deficiency problems where something doesn't work because of a lack of B12, meat eaters and vegans and vegetarians have almost the same levels. How's that possible when they're consuming many times more B12? How's that possible? What does that suggest is true about most people and their ability to process B12? It's not very good. If people eating animal products have these deficiency issues at the same rate of people not eating much B12, it says that most people have an issue, okay? Most people aren't getting enough. No matter how much they're consuming, they're not getting enough. And this is often the case. And it's really important to understand that what's critically important is not how much of any nutrient goes into the pie hole or the durian hole, okay? It's how much of those nutrients get to the cells and are actually used by the body. And those can be two very different things. So there's a video on my YouTube channel with a woman who fasted with me for 21 days. And we did this interview together at a site, the last site before we moved here, about 8 years ago. Okay? She had heard me speak in somewhere around the Phoenix area, and she contacted me and said, "What you said at the seminar was fascinating. I'm interested, but I have a massive magnesium deficiency." She took this huge magnesium supplement, and she was fine if she took the supplement, but she wasn't okay with that. And I said, "What are you eating?" And she said, "For about 5 years, I've been living on fruit and salad." "And you're deficient in magnesium?" "Yeah." Now, why was I surprised? Where do you find a lot of magnesium?
Fruit salad.
Leafy greens have tons of magnesium. Magnesium is the central molecule in, anyone know?
Chlorophyll?
Chlorophyll. Green things have tons of magnesium. She's eating a big salad every day and still doesn't have enough magnesium. What does that say? It's not about how much magnesium she's eating. It's about her body's ability to use it. This is often the case. What's usually going on is the body's not working as well as it could. Okay? So what we need to do is change that. So she fasted. She stopped taking the supplement, began fasting. Within about 3 days, started to experience magnesium deficiency symptoms. And by around day 14, all those symptoms were gone. They were gone. She eliminated the deficiency while consuming only water. How's that possible? What does that mean? It means the magnesium she needed was already in the body, but her body wasn't able to access it or use it properly, okay? The B12 you need is already in your body. There's tons of it being produced every day. Now, for many years, science said, yep, but it's destroyed in the gut. It's not available to us. In the last couple of years, they've started to say, well, it appears that some people can get what they need from the bacteria in their body, from the B12 in the body. I would suggest that everybody can get what they need from the B12 in their body if the body is working well enough, if it's hydrated and working properly. Hydration is a critically important piece of the puzzle. Now, most people are dehydrated, okay? Most people are dehydrated. This is something that we've now measured more than 5,000 people in the last 14 years, and virtually everybody is significantly less well hydrated than we've seen as possible. All right? So how does that impact B12? Well, let's back up a little bit. We'll take a step back. Why does the body produce hydrochloric acid? Anyone? What's it do?
Digest
Digests what?
in the stomach?
What does it digest?
Protein.
It's there to digest protein. Okay, hydrochloric acid breaks down protein. So here's a puzzle. How is it okay to dump hydrochloric acid meant to digest protein into a bag made of protein? Your stomach is a bag made of protein. How does that work?
It's protected by the mucous membrane.
Because a healthy stomach is protected by a mucous membrane, a layer of mucus, which protects the stomach. Mucus is made of what?
Water.
97, 98% water, I forget. It's 97 or 98% water, okay? Here's what I would suggest is likely happening every day in virtually everybody, okay? You wake up and your body goes, okay, let's see what's going on here. Uh-oh, once again, for the 45,000th day in a row, you don't have enough water. There isn't enough water in the body. So what's the body going to do? Blood is mostly water, 92% water. Do you think your body is going to operate on 65%, 85% as much water as it should have? What do you think? Blood as it should have? Is your body going to function very well if it's got 85% of the blood it should have? What do you think?
No.
No, and my guess is that's not what happens. my guess is, and we've seen strong evidence for this, which I'll share with you, is that what your virtually infinitely intelligent body does is it prioritizes the things that are critical to your survival. Does that sound like a smart plan? So your body ensures that with all the water you've got, it's going to do its best job to meet your body's needs for ample blood. It's going to make sure your heart, lungs, liver, kidney, brain, pancreas, thyroid have the water they need. Is it going to worry as much about your skin? Alan, what do you think? Skin's a little less important than your heart, lungs, liver, kidney, pancreas, thyroid, and bloodstream. How about your joints? Eyes? Okay, all of these non-critical things, these things they're useful, it's nice to see. It's good to feel, to be able to move your limbs, right? But you don't need those things to survive. And so what your body's doing every single day, it's taking all the water and it's making sure that the most critical functions and systems have the water they need, and it's taking the water that it needs to do that from things that are less important. So it's not like all of your body has 85% of the water it should have if you're 85%. What's true is that the critical things might have 95% of the water they want, and the non-critical things might have 30 or 40% of the water that they'd like to have. Okay? So here's an interesting thing. Before, I don't know where it stands now, but I know that before Viagra, when Viagra quickly became the best Viagra and the copycats, etc., became the #1 selling drug on the planet. Okay, when it first came out. I don't know where it is now. Prior to Viagra's introduction, the #1 selling type of drug on the planet were antacids. Okay? Prescription and often over-the-counter medication. You could walk into your pharmacy and buy it off the shelf. You don't need a prescription to buy Tums, Rolaids, Alka-Seltzer, Bromo-Seltzer, and probably many others depending on where you live, where you're from, right? There's probably many other brands in Australia and the UK and Poland and other places. So here's what's curious. It's a well-known fact that the vast majority of people are hypoacidic. Hypo means low. Low. Hyper is high, hypo is low. So most people have too little stomach acid and they're taking antacids, which further reduce stomach acid. They're perpetuating this vicious cycle. They're making the situation worse. What they're doing is they're suppressing symptoms, but never addressing the underlying issue. So the question is, why do most people have too little stomach acid? This is really common, but why is this?
Because your body doesn't want to burn up your gut.
Yeah. Your body, your virtually infinitely intelligent body says, okay, if there's not enough mucus to protect the stomach, let's turn down the acid concentration so we don't digest it. Does that make sense? Hey, this is what's going on. That's Bandita, by the way. She'll do this show every morning. Just so you know, Bandita, if you pet her, she might bite you, because that's the way she rolls. Okay, so your body purposely makes less concentrated stomach acid because your stomach's not adequately protected. And this, I believe, is why some people have to eat way more protein to get enough. Their body's not doing a very good job of digesting protein, but if they keep eating a lot of it through the day, they're going to get their needs met. If they eat the tiny amount that they should be able to meet their needs with, they're not going to get what they need, because it's a question of how efficient the body is, right? If you're 100% efficient and you needed, let's just say 1 gram of protein, you could eat 1 gram of protein. No body's 100% efficient. But maybe some bodies are 50% efficient and some bodies are only 10% efficient. Does this make sense? Okay, this is why some people have to consume far more. This is why some people seem to only be okay if they consume animal protein. They're getting much more protein that way than they get from eating plants. B12 is bound up to protein. And if you can't digest protein very well, you're going to have a hard time getting your B12 needs met. Okay, if your body is working well, which means you're hydrated, your body will not work well if you're not hydrated. And my experience is, right, I mean, I don't know how many of these people we've seen, but over all the years, I mean, maybe in the last couple of years, we've probably had, I'm guessing it's anywhere from 25 to 50% of the people who come here are people already eating a fruit-based diet or trying to. And we see people that have been years, the longest I think I've seen is 22 years living on fruit and salad, that's been a client here, still dehydrated if they've never fasted. Okay? In some cases, I mean, the people who are eating that way and not sipping enough water are often the most dehydrated of anyone. But the people who eat this way and sip water are better dehydrated than most people, but still, in most cases, a long way from where they should be. They say we get lines here and here from smiling. Children smile 100 times more than adults. Children don't have lines. Why not? Because their skin is still elastic. It takes time to lose all the elasticity as we get increasingly dehydrated every year, most people, because they're eating food that sucks the water out of their body. Eating food and drinking things that, diuretics like alcohol, coffee, tea, sodas, you're actually losing hydration every time you consume these things. Okay, you're eating foods that contain almost no water, and it's sucking the water out of your body. Remember, bowel movements are 75% water. Some of you, if you've been here for 5+ weeks now, you've probably heard this once or twice before. It's worthy of repeating because you want to get really clear, okay? If you choose to eat food that's not high in water content, it should be very occasionally, and probably not until you're already cruising along feeling amazingly well, where it's a little bump in the road, right? If you're trying to get to where you want to go, you don't want to stop and make exceptions at that point, because that's just going to set you back. Okay, so this is what's going on. People are dehydrated because of the way they eat. They stay dehydrated because the old stuff is in the body like a giant sponge, soaking up the water that's coming into the body. They're never going to get hydrated that way. Now again, for those 4 of you that just joined us, if, like most people, you're a little skeptical about this, I understand completely. But I promise you, you're going to find out for yourself. Okay, it is a fact. You're going to eliminate stuff that you're going to think, where did that come from? Like, which eon was that formed in? Okay? Because it had nothing to do with anything you've eaten recently. It's going to be dry and hard and painful and difficult in some cases. And it's life-changing when it leaves your body. Okay? But until it does, it's in there. And it doesn't matter how well you eat. Every single long-term raw foodist we've ever fasted has eliminated pounds and pounds of old hard material. It's not coming out by eating optimally. It's coming out when you give your body 3-4 weeks to just rest and sip water to break it down and hydrate it. That's when it's going to leave the body. It's not going to leave the body, most of it, until that happens. When you do that, it's a game changer, complete game changer. Okay? So, coming all the way back around to B12, the B12 you need is being manufactured in your body. When your body's hydrated, you're going to have no trouble getting your B12 needs met from what's in your body, most of you. Okay, now B12, a B12 deficiency is potentially serious, right? You can cause brain damage. So, some of you, if you're not, I mean, if you're one of those people that hasn't already got the brain damage, then you might want to be careful. All right? If you're feeling, if there's any symptoms that could suggest B12 deficiency, don't get a B12 blood test. They're useless because it doesn't matter how much is in your bloodstream. You can get a test for methylmalonic acid in your urine, which is inverse. If it's high, it means your B12 is low. And then supplement, because that's better than brain damage. Okay, it's not optimal, and you don't want to keep doing it, relying on it, because if you keep using a crutch, your body becomes dependent on the crutch. The good news is that you can take a bunch of B12, build up the levels, and then leave it alone for a while and let your body go back to doing its job. Okay? If you get your body clean and hydrated, and I can't promise you that it's going to be able to do this perfectly well after this fast. Some of you may need to do this again. I mean, let me restate that. Everybody here will benefit from fasting 2, 3, or more times for 21 days or more. Okay, you actually need to do that. But some of you may find that after one fast of 3 weeks or more, your body is now able to get the B12 it needs from within its own body. Okay, it just depends on what happens for you. Okay, so this is something you can pay attention to, but understand that like every other species, I mean, we should not need to supplement with anything. We are natural frugivores. Our bodies are intended to consume fruit and soft, tender leaves. There's nothing else we need, and we should get everything we need that way, because that's the way it works in nature. Now, I wouldn't blindly rely on that. It's okay to check to make sure you're getting what you need. But in most cases, you will once your body's clean enough, efficient enough, and hydrated enough. Hi, enjoying my videos? If you'd like to learn much more, check out the Academy for Vibrant Living, where our Vibrant Health course will teach you everything you need to know to take your health to an amazing new level. And if you'd like to turn your passion for health into a lucrative career, check out the Health Coaching course, where you can become a professional, certified health coach and help as many people as possible see amazing results.